Bishop and Pastor April, not sure if you're aware of this, but it is our 30-year anniversary at Impact Church. And you guys were there since the beginning. So over 30 years, what's some decisions you've made that have protected your integrity, even when they maybe could cost you influence or popularity?
You want to go? Let me go?
No, that's you.
Well, we made a decision early on that family was more important than ministry. And I didn't want to have to ever apologize to my kids that we were in ministry. I didn't want to be able to say I had this great, big, amazing church and kids that don't like me. And so I've been very intentional. We've been very intentional about I made all my sons' basketball games and football games and coached their flag football teams and all my daughter's ballet recitals. If I had to fly back overnight, if I had to drive all the way back overnight, made sure I made it back for all those things. And even, we now have a Saturday night service, as you know, but we started a Saturday night service years ago, probably 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was booming. Actually, had grown and was rivaling our 2 Sunday morning services. And I came and announced that I was shutting it down and was going to build a couple overflow rooms to get more people in on Sundays because I didn't want to miss that season in my kids' life. I didn't want to not be at some of their football games, didn't want to not be at some of their sporting events because it was only a short window. And once that window is up, it's gone. And now our 3 kids are all grown. There are no more football games and ballet recitals. And that's one of the things that is integrity for me because so often ministers get caught in building a great church and forget to build a great home. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want that to be the case for us. So, I can't say we've done everything perfectly by any stretch as parents, but that was one that has been a big deal. I think another one for me is too, I've never wanted money to be an issue for us in ministry. And so I've never set my own salary since we started. When we first started, my pastor in Michigan set our salary. And then once we became independent, we established a board. We have a compensation group that does a study every so many years. What's that, mate?
Analysis.
Yeah, it does an analysis every so many years, kind of compares the workload I have, the size of our ministry, the budget I oversee, the amount of responsibility, compares it to other nonprofit CEOs, compares to other for-profit CEOs, and they give a recommendation. And then we have a compensation team that then votes to decide what they think my salary should be. I have never pushed back. Only time I've ever pushed back is when they said I should have a raise, and I didn't think it was a good time for the ministry, so I said I'm not taking it right now. But I've never, decided what I was going to make. Never tried to find a way to use the ministry to make more money. I don't honestly. I cannot tell you how much money I make right now. Roughly, but I on purpose don't let money ever become the issue. I do what I do to serve God. And God has always provided. He provides through the ministry. Then he gives me other ideas. I've got books. I've got music projects, other things that bring in other income. So that I don't ever have to let money be the reason that I do anything in ministry. So that's an integrity thing for me. Even going to other places. I go to places to minister. Sometimes they'll give me an honorarium. I've gone places, man, where I ministered my heart out for a few days and they didn't give me anything but a pair of shoes as a thank you. And I didn't walk away from there mad. I just thank God for the opportunity to pour into those people. Literally 2 weeks later, went to another place. They had me minister for like 30 minutes and gave me a check that I was like, whoa, I felt guilty about the check.
Yeah.
But God just kind of spoke to me and reminded me that at the end of the day, any place you go, they're never your source. So you go where you're called, not go where they said they're going to give you a good check. And that's always been our mindset. Between the two of us, we have never let money be the reason we do anything. We try to keep good borders around ourselves when it comes to the opposite sex and things of that nature to make sure we don't end up in compromising positions. We talk about everything. She's got access to all my phones, passwords, social media, any of the above. So I think those are the type of things that we've done over these years to try to make sure that we could, be a good representation for the kingdom of God.
Absolutely. I think that for us, we've kept family close. Our immediate family, we just kept it close and kept it in the right priority. Obviously God has been first, and then the two of us, and then our family has been safe borders to keep us in line with integrity. And we also, though, listen to our leadership. We have pastors that pour into us, and have demonstrated and given us examples of proper borders to just keep around you. Our team is tight. Just accountability, people to keep us in accountability to what we said we were going to do and how we said we're going to lead and how family should come first. And so I think those have just been protective mechanisms around us that just keep us in line.
Yeah.
So.
The three things that typically will take ministers out is money, sex, or pride. And we talked about the borders in terms of the opposite sex. I talked about the borders when it comes to money and just kind of our philosophy. And on the pride side, we've just made a commitment to be authentic. It's hard to get caught in pride when you maintain authenticity. Yeah. The Bible says about Jesus, he made himself of no reputation, which means he wasn't concerned about what other people thought about him. He didn't build his life around making sure you looked at me a certain way. And we've tried to do that, which is why I teach the way that I do. I don't ever teach that I'm here at this great mountain and you little peasants need to come on up here and do what I've done so you can get up here where I am. I try to share that, yeah, we've got some good wins, but I've got some areas that I'm still growing in, still developing in. Sometimes I've had some great strides and then realize I've had an emotional setback. And so I try to share the parts of our lives without, sharing the gory details. I try to share enough parts of our lives so we don't ever come across as if we've arrived and everybody else needs to get to where we are. And that's a protection for us. It keeps me reminded of the fact that if it wasn't but for the grace of God, I could be the one who has done whatever, messed up whatever. And I think his grace has been sufficient because of that.
Yeah, so I really would hope whether you're a dream team a dream team member in our church or you're a pastor friend of the ministry watching this, it's interesting. Your first answer was about your family, though. When we talk about integrity and we're doing a family podcast, and I think that just flows here at Impact Church.
Yeah.
And so you always say we care more about your soul than your serve. And if home is not healthy, it's hard to have a healthy soul. And the word integrity actually means wholeness or completeness. On a Navy ship, we want watertight integrity, meaning we don't want any leaks. And so it's not just telling the truth, but when our family is whole, there's peace in the home. That's so good. And I think that's why we're doing this podcast today, because I've personally witnessed how important that is to the Davis family.
And as a leader, can I just say, it's important to the Davis family, but it's important to me for every family that's connected to us. Yeah. Because I've seen sometimes where leaders will protect their family, but they don't really care a whole lot about their staff's family. Yeah. They'll take the days off to make sure they're at their kids' game, but then won't have enough grace to make sure that others on their team can be there for. And I've been the opposite. We got a number of us that work Saturdays. And I've said to some of our Saturday employees, like, if your kids got a baseball game or a football game, you had better not be in this building and miss their game unless there's something going on. We got a conference or something going on. Yeah, we all understand that. But if it's a regular random Saturday and we're just doing regular random work, then go to their game, come back afterwards, and make sure you got accountability. Somebody knows where you are, because I don't want any of our staff kids to ever feel like they were cheated because their parents were serving God.
Yeah, I actually had that conversation with you. I was like, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. And you're like, if you don't go do this, you'd be in trouble with me. Yeah. And as a staff member, there's times I thought, yeah, he gives us way too much leniency in some areas, but I think it's why people love this place. So, he is telling the truth. He is serious about us taking care of our children and our home and celebrating anniversaries and all of that. Let's get into some questions. We left off in our last episode talking about conflict and how to fight fairly. But I think it was you said something, Pastor. No, actually you said something, Bishop, about not making big deals out of little deals. And somebody actually has this question. How do you know when to bring up small issues versus letting them go?
I think when to bring them up is when you realize they're bothering you. We both have a number of quirks and just ways of doing things. I was joking Sunday, but she didn't like the night to end with a dish in the sink. To me, I grew up where you can get up in the morning and wash them all in the morning, but that's something that's important to her. So it's a quirk to me, but it's important to her, so it doesn't bother me. I think the time to bring it up is when you realize this is actually bothering me. I'm realizing that I'm having a little error in my side every time they do this, every time they say that. And I think that's the time to bring it up. If it irritates you enough for you to think about it afterwards and it still be sitting there, that's when you need to bring it up. Otherwise, it starts to pile up and it becomes a much bigger issue. The question becomes, how do you bring it up? When do you bring it up?
Yeah.
I don't think you got to bring it up with urgency. I don't think you got to bring it up with, we need to sit down and talk. I think you got to know your spouse enough, know your kids enough, because it doesn't just extend to your spouse. My kids, even as teenagers, sometimes I needed to address something, but I waited for the right time. Even as the authority figure, and just barge into their room first thing in the morning and go right in on the conversation. Sometimes I wait for the right time for them too. Waited for a time where I knew their hearts would be more open to receive it. So I think it's finding the right time and the right way to say what you're trying to say, and then saying it in a way that doesn't unnecessarily offend the other person.
Right. I'm just thinking, I think that it's important too to realize how meticulous you may be. And so I think in the way that I'm wired, and we'll just use the dishes as example. I am so meticulous, and I like things in a certain spot, in a certain place, the cabinets, closed, everything in the right spot. And I think that could be overbearing when you live in a house with other people, a whole family, that to nitpick on every little thing. But for me, I'm like, well, I'm going to just pick it up. And so he'll say, stop picking up after. I say, yeah, but it gives me better peace when I see it back in its right spot. So, a lot of times I feel like, and I get the piling up. You're going to get, the implosion or explosion if everything just keeps piling up. But for me, it's a lot of times it's like, this is going to keep it from piling up if I just go ahead and just put it back, because I know that for me, I'm probably the only one in the house bothered by it. And so, clean kitchen, I get that, but there's certain things that you can say, little things bother you. Some things I'm like, if you're very, very meticulous or overbearing, I think you may need to go to God and say, hey, God, help me to know how to live with other people. I've seen couples that says, I grew up and the house was always quiet when I was growing up. And now hey, you got a family of 6 now. It's not going to be quiet. You got to kind of go to God and help me fit with what you've blessed me with. So I just think, I don't know, that just kind of needed to be said on the reverse side. So I think the time to bring it up is when you realize it's really bothering you. But I think it also, before you acknowledge it's really bothering you, ask God, should this really be bothering me? Right.
Because I think there's sometimes where things bother us, and at the end of the day, well, no, you just need to grow up. You need to stop being uptight. Don't be so selfish. This is their house too. And so you want to give space for other people to not feel like they have to be a prisoner in the house that they live in as well.
Yeah. Understanding we're hardwired differently too. So let's shift a little bit. Somebody asked, but staying in the marriage idea, what is intimacy really, and how is it more than physical?
Yeah, I think that intimacy is a lot more than just being physical. I think intimacy is your communication, your relationship, and how you interact with one another is the beginning of intimacy. I think the physical part is a result of how you relate to each other on a daily basis. I think you can be physical and not intimate at all, actually. So I think it's how you talk to each other, how you, your soft, gentle touches, your thoughtfulness, your sensitivity is all a part of being intimate way before you go physical.
Yeah, intimacy, the best description of it is in Genesis chapter 2, before Adam and Eve sinned in chapter 3. The Bible concludes that chapter 2 says they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. So intimacy is the ability to be naked, not just physically naked, but the ability to be open, honest, transparent, vulnerable, nothing to hide, no secrets. That's intimacy. And that's where every relationship you want it to grow to. And not even just a husband and wife, but even best friends should reach a place of intimacy to where I don't have to put on a mask in front of you. I don't have to look a certain way. I don't have to feel like I got to have a certain status. Because if I got to put on to be around you, then that's not intimacy. And so, the things that hinder intimacy is when you got secrets, when you got harsh words, when, you're nitpicking sometimes and won't give the person space to just be able to be themselves. And maybe holding them to a standard that I'm working to get there, but you won't give me space to feel comfortable as I'm headed there. So all of that is intimacy, and it's got nothing to do with the physical part. And as she said, you can be physical and have zero intimacy. But if you have good intimacy, it will absolutely dramatically affect the physical relationship in a positive way. And so I think what every couple should be working at more than anything else is how do we build more intimacy? And some of that is I got to go back and let God address some trauma from my childhood. I got to go back and be honest about stuff that shut me down and has stopped me from being that open, lively child that I used to be. Because before I can really get intimate with another person, I got to get intimate with myself and with God. If I can't get honest with myself, I'm definitely not going to be honest with you. So I got to start by being honest with myself, transparent with myself, self-reflective, and giving God space to start working on healing those parts of me that I know need some healing. And then being able to find somebody else in my life that I can trust enough to really be able to open up and share. This is not what you asked, but let me add this as well. It's also one of the reasons why it's real dangerous for a man or woman to start having conversations with the opposite sex that you're not married to.
Yeah.
Because even though there's nothing that's happened physically, I haven't slept with them, but if you start having intimate conversations where you're sharing things and being vulnerable with somebody that you shouldn't have that level of connection with, it opens the door for other things to come down the line. And so there's a level of intimacy that should only be shared between a husband and a wife. And there should be nobody else outside the marriage union that should have that level of direct contact and connection.
Right.
Yeah, like an emotional affair you can end up having. It didn't lead to a bedroom maybe, but you went places that only your spouse should go with you. That's really, really good. You guys talk about this all the time. Even when we're not talking about marriage or family, you talk about the importance of date night. What are some creative ideas for date nights and date days?
I don't know that we're the best at that answering that question because we
kind
are.
of do the same thing over and over.
It doesn't take a whole lot for us. So, we go to dinner on most of our date nights. We can go to the beach on our date nights. We're not the two people that, have all these great creative ideas, but we also don't need that.
Right.
We can literally have fun just being around each other. Sometimes our date night, we jump in the car and just drive. Yeah. And we'll drive around and just talk, listen to some old music and just enjoy each other's company. So I don't know that we are the best at answering what are some creative date night ideas.
I think that there's been times he's better than I am just finding out what's happening in the city. And there's been a couple of surprises that I thought we had really, really good date nights. Just some of it was sort of like a museum.
I got one planned tonight.
All right. But, I think a museum exhibit of King Tut or something that came to town. It ended up being a really, really nice, cute date night, but just, picking up, the internet or something and figuring out what's happening in the city or, it's not expensive. Doesn't have to be expensive. But we've done theater. We've done, movies, obviously, dinner, beach, just enjoying one another can be a date night. Coffee at Starbucks is a date night. So
say that again.
I love coffee. So coffee at Starbucks or just to go get dessert sometimes. Sometimes it's dinner at home and dessert somewhere else can be a date night. So it's enjoying quality set aside time with your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit too. We just kind of like the same things. But I think if someone's asking this question and maybe you want a more creative date time, maybe you take the initiative. Okay, we've got the plan. Thursday night is our date night. but I got something I want to do. I've thought this out. And because we need help as men, we need help sometimes. So if there's something you want, ladies, just tell us what you want and help us out.
Yeah.
And we'll be glad to go. Let's go out a little bit outside the home on this question. How do you build a healthy relationship with in-laws while still protecting the unity of your marriage?
Woo.
Yeah.
I think first of all, you have to be honest about who your in-laws are. So many times we try to have something based on an expectation or desire we have. And you may or may not have married somebody with parents that are going to allow you to have that. It's beautiful when you can have a beautiful in-law relationship. I mean, my relationship with my in-laws is amazing. She gets upset because they'll call the house and, hey, April, where's George? And they're calling to talk to me.
I think they'll throw me away and just to have him. So.
Even from her brothers to her mom and dad. Great in-law relationship, and we've never had to work really hard at it. But I also has always been very respectful. If there's things happening in their family that doesn't directly pertain to me, I've never tried to butt in and act like I should tell them what they should do because I'm the pastor or anything like that. If they ask my advice or help, I'll chime in. But I've never tried to make the assumption that I should be telling them what to do. And thankfully, we've also have never vented our difficult moments to them. So they've never felt authorized to jump in our business. And they've never, stepped in to try to tell us what to do. So we've kept a good boundary there to where they are able to be in-laws, and that's it. We're able to come and have fun, enjoy them, they can enjoy us. But we've never given them space to think that we needed or are asking for their intervention. And since we haven't asked for that, they've never butt in with that. So I think it's just a mutual respect. And when you have in-law relationships where there can be a mutual respect, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think then when you also realize that there's sometimes in-laws that you can't have that with. And I think you have to find what the right border is. Be respectful, but be honest. And sometimes you maybe even have to say, hey, we really appreciate that, but that's not what we need from you. And I think if you don't establish good borders early on and you give an in-law space to butt in, or you need to borrow money all the time from them, then you're really just kind of inviting them to have an opinion in parts of your life that you may not want long term. So,
yeah.
Well, kind of staying in the idea of outside the four walls of our home, how do you navigate extended family expectations during holidays, traditions, major life events? Where do we do Thanksgiving at this year, et cetera?
I think for us at times, we have dinners at our house, so if it becomes an issue, that could be something that we'll just have the dinner at our house and invite people over, or you just have an understanding of sometimes what's the best fit for where you are in life. I don't know. You're going to have to help me with this.
I think the Bible says, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Once we became husband and wife, we drew a circle around us, and this is now our family. And we have a right to decide what our family is going to do. We're not obligated to come to everybody's house and hop around, 6 houses for Thanksgiving. We're also not trying to be mean and shut anybody out. So I think we kind of have to draw a circle around ourselves and discuss together, what do we want to do? What do we feel comfortable doing for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, 4th of July, whatever the holiday is, and try to be as equitable as we can. I think once we started having children, it changed even more, because now for Christmas, they had needs, and we're making sure they're happy and taken care of and enjoying their toys. And so that meant you couldn't bounce around everybody's house, and then they didn't get a chance to fully enjoy Christmas themselves. So for us, that hasn't really been a big problem. And so I don't know if we're even the authority figure to speak on this one, because we have kind of drew a circle around us, and we just decided what we were comfortable doing for holidays and what we weren't comfortable doing for holidays. And in large part, because of what we do professionally as pastors, holidays and those breaks are just so refreshing that we didn't have room for them to be stressful. So any environment that felt like it could be stressful, we were staying away from it, and with no apologies. We didn't send a bunch of letters. Is this the reason why we didn't share? We just didn't. And anybody that wanted to have a conversation about it, we were willing to talk about it, but we just decided to do what was really best for us. And I think that's what every family should do. And if what's best for us is spending Thanksgiving or Christmas with you, then let's make that work. But if it's not, it's okay. And that doesn't mean that we're not family. Sometimes you can be family and still not have a good connection when it comes to giving away your holiday time together.
I think for us too, it was a matter of, I had a lot of traditions. He didn't have a lot of traditions. So he didn't, when you get together, and the expectation for us wasn't that we need to have some strong conversations here about, because I like to do this for holidays. You like to do this. What are we going to do? It kind of just meshed into, what are we going to do? Because
this matters to her.
It mattered more to me than it did to him. So, yeah.
And it kind of feels like the entire conversation, starting with when do we bring up small things to how we handle conflict, all of that has to happen at home first.
Right.
And then we don't discount if something's important to you. Is there a way to incorporate it? But let's not stress our families out either, and then not be able to even enjoy our holidays.
Yep. And for us too, growing up, especially with small kids, we had to be considerate of who they were going to be around. Yeah. And I was just not willing to have our kids around folks just because they're family, if lifestyle-wise and decisions that they're making just were not decisions and lifestyles that we were comfortable with our kids being around. So that kind of made a separation by itself in some respects. And again, there were no apologies. We love all of our family members, but from her side and my side, there's sometimes individuals that this is not who I want to have my kids sitting talking to Uncle so-and-so or Aunt so-and-so or cousin so-and-so or Grandma so-and-so or Grandpa so-and-so. And we just wanted to give them enough of a buffer that we didn't allow connections to happen that could turn around and be detrimental to them down the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would even add too, especially a big family or you've moved out of town. Like I'm from California. I've not done a Thanksgiving with my family probably since I was in the Navy in the 90s, but it's just not feasible financially. We could probably do it, but then something else is going to suffer, and we don't want that stress. So again, I think just the integrity of our family, which is how we started the conversation, everything else will smooth itself out. Yeah. Well, this has been an amazing, amazing episode. Can't wait to talk to you more in the next one. We got some really exciting things to talk about, so we'll see you soon.